IG. Eat an eggplant. Yeah, just drop me off. On some real shit, Sue. Like, for nothing. I really, like, they're motivating me, though, bro. They motivating me. They're motivating me. I'm trying to accept you, son, on the letting you in, and it's not letting me. Yeah, it's not letting me do it. I'm hitting accept, and it's not responding. Yeah, they on some bullshit, bro. They on some real bullshit, for real, for real. Like they're trying to they're obviously trying to run me off the app. Obviously, obviously. I want to. I swear, I want to be responsible for a mass exodus off of this platform to fan base. I swear I do. I swear I do. I want to lead my people out of this bondage with this shit right here. Yeah, they just did us dirty just now. Sis, the vixen, like I I didn't even curse. Y'all saw me editing my own communication. I didn't even curse. I don't know. I don't know. I think that might be it might be that might be your heat, Ty. It's crazy. Like, I mean, I get it. Okay, I'm not doing the thing that they like us to do. I'm not doing the destructive thing. I'm not promoting bullshit and destructive behavior and all of that. I'm speaking to critical thinking and encouraging people to expand their minds, encourage our people to expand their minds. Man, take it up, Trey. They just
Yo,
knocked me off 45 minutes. 45 minutes in, and knocked us off.
yo, they blocked both my other pages. Like Tom Mills Funny, they said I can't go live from that. They penalized me on that, and they penalized me on the WePopNSon. I can't go live on that.
So that's what it is. It's you.
No, they just did that just now because it got deleted. Once it got canceled, once they canceled it, then they just deleted. They said I can't go live on either one of those pages.
So why am I able to come back and go live on the page they just shut down? On the live they just shut
Uh,
down.
I was probably already getting. I know on my Tom Mills Funny, they got mad at me earlier because I don't know. I called somebody. I said somebody look. I said this looked like a sweet potato, and they flagged me. They said I'm bullying and harassing because I said it looked like a sweet potato.
You know what? Like, the lack of accountability is ridiculous. Noel, what up, though? What's happening? You good, cuzzo? It is, bruh. It looked like a sweet potato. Like,
Just to say something and be like, nah, you bullying and you harassing people. Nobody reported this. We just gonna say it because we can. It's like, yo, this is messed up. This is some real bullshit.
bruh, bruh. Yo, Isaac Hayes the third. Yo, we need WePopNSon on fan base in a big way. We need WePopNSon on fan base, man. Like, I want to take every single body with me. I want to take everybody with me off of this joint. What up, Saint? What's going on? House of Supia said, I see pics of females showing all their cash and prizes, and they don't get flagged. It is obvious. It is obvious. It is what you think it is. It is obvious that these platforms are about manipulation manipulation, idea control, idea containment, observation, surveillance, profile. I've seen it said in different memes, if you're using a service and you're not paying for the service, you are the product. That's a fact. You're not paying for this because we're the product. Everything about us is being learned and monitored and monetized. They're selling everything. Every time you like a picture, comment on a picture, you provide a degree of psychological profile. You know, if you like something, then it speaks to who you are, what your preferences may be, right? A skilled a skilled thinking person, bro. Like, but you know, a psychology professional, um, a um, a person, you know, a criminologist. If they looked at what people liked, what people followed, what people commented on, what their comments said, without ever having met that person, they could create a profile that could tell you within a reasonable degree what this person is most likely like, what they most likely like, what they will most likely do in a given situation. That, that's what these things do. That's why so much expense and resources are put into these things. It's not because they like to bring people together. It's because they are siphoning off from the general public information that most of the people in the general public would never willingly, consciously, and deliberately give up. Giving people the opportunity to make up names, thus to hide their identity, also opens up an opportunity for them to express themselves in an honest and truthful way that if they were to be held accountable by way of being identified, they wouldn't express themselves. They wouldn't say the things they say. They wouldn't comment on what they comment on. They wouldn't linger on pages and constantly visit certain pages or hit the like button or, you know, follow. They wouldn't be doing any of that if they understood what the implications of doing any of those things really were. You have no idea. And it is pretty apparent to me that people are getting dumber. People are definitely getting dumber. People have become so reliant upon so-called technology to do everything for them, to figure everything out for them, to even articulate their sentences. Oh, let's chat. You know, if you go in your, and I don't know if I can say the word, the DMs. The other day, I sent Meech's mom a message, or I put a comment underneath a post that she put up memorializing her mom, and I told her, check your messages. Why did this platform send me a strike for telling her to check her messages? So, and what was the strike? You know what it said. It seems you're trying to get likes, follows,
You trying to
videos.
spam for likes and comments and views on your page. Like, because this person is responding to you, that means people might actually pay attention to you. So we don't want that. So we're going to flag you.
To what purpose? What's the purpose of doing that? What is it they're actually trying to control? That's the critical question. What are they actually trying to control? Yep. House of Sufyan said, I can't hear you, son. House of Sufyan said, we lost our sense of direction now that we have Waze and Google Maps. I remember when I used to drive from state to state, city to city, and just needed basic directions and landmarks. Right.
Yeah.
See, that's the price. The price of convenience is that the uh, neuromuscular activity that you would normally implement in trying to figure out problems, solve problems, come up with solutions and so forth, you no longer have to do that. And if if you if you don't practice something before long, no matter how good at it you once were, you lose your ability. Use it or lose it. That's really what that is. That movie, Idiocracy, that you put me onto,
Yeah.
that's exactly the outcome on the current trajectory we're on right now. Give it 20 years. Give it 20 years. In 20 years, we will be living. I mean, realistically, we're already living idiocracy. We're already living idiocracy.
Remember the dude? Remember the chick had the dude? She was the hoe in the future, and she had the dude paying her to wait. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna wait real good, baby. You don't know how I'm gonna wait. You don't know how I'm gonna wait." And that's what OnlyFans is. Like, it's not even being controlled by this girl. It's some dude who what it is, and you just believe in it. Yeah, yo, spread your teeth. Yeah, that ain't her. She's off doing whatever she want to do.
Right, right. Yo, if y'all haven't seen that movie Idiocracy, with Terry, what's his name?
Terry Crews.
President Terry Crews, bruh. It's funny, and then you really think about it, and then it's tragic. It's not even funny no more. It's like, oh my God, this is what it is, and this is what it's going to be, and it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. I was looking at something that Simone shared with me earlier. It's a video of a brother talking about belief and the components of belief. And one particular part that I thought was interesting, obviously, years ago when I was doing conversations with Cavario, I did a couple of videos specifically about belief. I've taken all those videos down off of YouTube, because YouTube is not worthy. And one of the things he said, one of the points he made was people automatically assume that when they Google something, what they get is the absolute unmitigated facts or truth about a given situation, subject, or individual. That's what they think. They do not understand what, how algorithms impact what they see, two, what research really is. The painstaking research that a human being goes through to look up a subject and get information on that subject, and then look at other sources and do comparisons to the initial information and from the other sources to try and determine the accuracy or validity of the information that they received, and at the same time not allow their preconceived notions, ideas, preferences, and beliefs to impact their ability to discern what is true and what is not beyond what they would like to believe is true and what is not. And the fact that they think that a Google search that comes up in seconds is doing that, as opposed to what a human, like what a human being would do, which the cross-reference information and really actually do the freaking research. The fact that there's this absolute blind reliance on and belief in these search engines, and that everything that you're receiving is um, actual, factual, and on point beyond question because it's Google and it's on Google, and arguably I can win a argument or a debate with somebody by saying, well, we'll just Google it. Because I think that if it comes up on Google, it's the absolute gospel. It's the truth. It's the real thing.
My homeboy call it your white daddy. Oh yeah, go ask your white daddy.
Yeah, you're right. And Al Prophet calls it the universal overmind. He said, let's consult the universal overmind. But Al is an actual researcher. Al's an actual critical thinker. So he'll pull up something on Google and point out how it is absolutely wrong. It's absolutely wrong. But it's the first, second, and third thing that comes up after the things that are paid for to come up.
But that's the funny thing about that stuff. It's like Google is just the most popular search engine. It's not even the most accurate. But
right.
People don't even recognize or acknowledge that because before Google, everybody was on Yahoo.
Yep.
Yahoo was that nigga. Yahoo was everything.
Yep.
And then it fell to the wayside because it didn't keep pushing forward like these other spaces.
Yep. That's a fact. That's a fact. Again, there's a divider, just like there was a divider between my generation and the generation that came before it. See, the generation that came before my generation, they lived through Jim Crow. They lived through laws and common practices that were overtly racist. Then I'm born in the latter 60s, and I'm born in, predominantly, black community where I don't really interact with non-black people except for a few hours a day at school in the form of my teachers. So the experience that the generation before mine had in this country, the reality they dealt with every day, I was insulated from that. I missed that. I'm only aware of it because of the history I've exposed myself to and the information that they share with me through the sharing of their experiences and their stories and so forth, which was kind of peripheral. It's like, you have a random conversation with an uncle, a random conversation with an aunt, a random conversation with a older family member or older, neighborhood person or whatever. And they talk about how back in the days, them saltines used to do this, that, and the other and say this, that, and the other. And as a young person in 1979, 78, you're thinking, what? 77, you're thinking like, what? Man, they'll get, not understanding. No, we were in a time where they had legal recourse for you holding them accountable for their disrespectful behavior towards you. You know what I mean? Like, so my generation didn't have the connection with those experiences. So my generation wasn't motivated and driven like the generation before towards collectivism, ownership, support of one another. We weren't driven towards that because we didn't have the same degree of exposure and understand the motivation behind doing stuff like that. We didn't have that motivation like that, And when the next generation came behind me, behind my generation, they had even less of it. They had even less of a connection to the things that their grandparents had experienced and why their grandparents were the way that they are and why they thought like they thought and said the things that they said, why they taught the things that they taught.
Was loaded.
Yeah. So, they didn't have, your generation didn't have a connection to what the generation before mine had gone through. So they lost the path that we should have been on and stayed on, and they lost it because of the control of the information, the misinformation. Queen Nova 1, thanks for tapping in. Yeah, me too, Trey. Trey said, I wish I invested in Google back in '06 when when it was a few dollars a share. In the reason that the people who did invested in it because they had the benefit of some degree of educational exposure from their predecessors that helped them to understand what that whole thing means. You don't have to understand Google. You don't have to understand the technology. All you had to understand was the time, the demand, what it offered, and what that all presented in terms of future opportunity.
Yeah,
That takes exposure. That takes
Jordan with Nike. Jordan
right.
with Nike, when he got to them, they offered him a lower amount of money, but they gave him stock options. And Charles Barkley and all them other players,
Breaking up.
they won.
Breaking up. You breaking up.
They like later. I wish I would have took the stock options.
Well, say it again, because I lost you for a couple of seconds.
And took stock options with Nike when he signed his contract. Did it mess up again when I started talking? Oh,
yeah, it kind of did.
I said,
But I should say,
took stock options with Nike, and
right.
Other players didn't. They just took the money, and the money, ran out, and his stock options turned into like $1 billion.
So the difference between his decisions and his peers' decisions was the informed counsel of his mother.
Yeah,
that's the difference. So her informed counsel.
Like, if you are part of this company, the value of the company is going, and we want to go up with the value of the company because you're going to go up.
Yeah. So the benefit of her experience, wisdom, and education that she was able to comport to or import to him. That's what made the difference in his decision making. This is what I'm talking about, has been lost largely in our collective, because my generation was disconnected from the experiences, the lessons, and the wisdom of those experiences and lessons that came from the generation before. I wasn't, well, not me per se, but my peer group was not building on that history. They were starting out with a blank slate full of propaganda and misinformation about what the reality was of the environment and the social and economic circumstances of their existence was. They were given a bad bill of goods, a bunch of disinformation, a bunch of bad information. And it made them inclined to negate the information being provided to them by the previous generation. When they're trying to tell me, hey, look, you got to watch these guys, man. They do this, that, and the other, whatever. You can't trust them. And they speak out of both sides they face. They have no integrity. They have no morals. They have no ethics. They're soulless. And, but we're being shown imagery of how great and talented and wonderful and just smart they are. And, I grew up watching John Wayne, Elvis Presley, who else? John Wayne, Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, innumerable amounts of examples. Drug addicts, bigots, thieves, swagger jackers. But if we had the benefit, my peer group, if we had the benefit of really being connected to and listening to our predecessors, the generation before, then we wouldn't have viewed John Wayne as, the quintessential, manly man. We wouldn't, Mr. Marion. His name wasn't John Wayne, it's Marion. His name was Marion. That was his first name, Marion. Because we would have never accepted a Marion with that imagery, right? This job, what's going on? Dukes of Hazzard. Exactly, Sue. Dukes of Hazzard. Racist. The the blonde one, straight up racist. John something, straight up racist. So if we hadn't been disconnected from that generation, then we would have viewed all that imagery through the same eyes that they did. My mother walk in and see me watching an Elvis Presley movie, she'll suck her teeth and get that crap off my television. I'll be like, Ma, it's 7 televisions in here. And this is my room. So, you know, if you don't want to see the king of rock and roll, then you can roll. She said, fuck you and Elvis. You know what I mean? Like, for real, for real. And it was because I didn't have the perspective that she had. I was not afforded that perspective beyond my exposure to them on a daily basis, whatever, whatever. But it was still a mentality like, I'm being given all of this whitewashing stuff all the time. And then, you know, intermittently, you know, you're tapping in, you know, and saying, you know, while you know, counting some money or, you know, prepping some work or whatever, whatever. You know, by the way, I get this, that, and the other, whatever. You know what I mean? But you're not really, you're a little by the way, you know, pay attention, and that ain't nothing compared to the hours and hours and hours a day that I'm exposed to all of this stuff that makes them look different. So now I grew up not really knowing what it is. And I say I don't really mean me per se, because I did actually get more information about what was going on than most of my peers, you know, which made me weird to them because I sounded like the older people to my peers. You know what I mean? But most of them did not get that. So when they grew up and their kids start coming along, they were even less connected to the information that was pertinent about who these people are and what it is that they're inclined to do, what it is they have historically done, and what you have to be in the condition to defend yourself against mentally, physically, spiritually, economically, communally. You have to be in condition to defend yourself against these people in this system that they have. You know, this system right here, right? And as we were getting further and further away from the reality of who these people were and how they operated and how their systems adversely impacted us, they were becoming more and more progressive and creative and effective with their tactics, to the point of creating these platforms for the ultimate aggregation, monitoring, surveilling, control, and disinformation and disenfranchising of the people. Not just us, though. Not just us. And to be really honest, it was never just us. It was never just us. There was a certain level of people. They just made us the face of that level of people while manipulating the other people who don't have the same chemical attributes we have, leveraging them against us to keep the division from the group of common people. Common people are a single group. They've been broken up into these smaller groups for infighting, for, you know, validation, mostly for validation, but resources. They say it's resources, but mostly they just looking for the pat on the back, you know, and the pat on the head from, you know, the small group of people who are in control of virtually everything. That's really what it's really the main driver for people in their bullshit, trying to kiss up to, you know, Big Daddy, you know. That's all. They just want to get next to Big Daddy, and they'll do anything to get next to Big Daddy, because Big Daddy gonna make them special and give them stuff and get them access to stuff, and, you know, allow them or enable them to be beyond consequences. You know what I mean? And until they're not, a la Diddy. You know what I mean? But even these kinds of conversations, discussing these sorts of subject matters and the relevance of, and the depth and expanse of the relevance of these kinds of conversations, like understanding what social engineering is, what psyops are, psychological operations, you know, designed to undermine and control and confuse and turn in on itself, the general public. To not be able to have these conversations commonly because our average contemporary doesn't understand 97% of the words in the English language. Like, seriously? Like, they literally don't understand. I could probably pick 15 words that I've said in the last 30 minutes that the average person from our collective has no idea what they mean. That's why if I use a word and I understand it's an uncommonly used word, I'll say basically what it means right behind it. So to somebody who understands, it seems like, oh, he's repeating himself. No, I'm explaining myself. I'll use a word like aptitude, and then I'll say, you got to exercise your aptitudes, because if you don't show people what you're capable of, which is exercising your aptitudes, showing people what you're capable of. To somebody who understands what I said in the first place, it sounds like I'm repeating myself or being redundant or whatever have you, or maybe I don't know that I just said it or something like that, but I'm very aware of what I said. I'm also very aware of the fact that I engage a lot of people often. I talk to a lot of people often. I know when people, I have a general understanding of whom the people I'm most interested in impacting, what they are in tune to and what they're not in tune to. And it's unfortunate, a lot of them are not in tune to sophisticated communication, at all, which means the likelihood of them being able to wrap their mind around concepts like propaganda, manipulation, disinformation, misinformation, the likelihood of them being able to wrap their minds around not just the words, but their meanings is very unlikely. And so when addressing that demographic, it's important that I not just impress upon them that I have an expansive vocabulary. It's important that whatever I say, they understand it. Because other than that, what's the point?
You'll be just
You know
talking
what I
over
mean?
their head.
Right. There's no point to that. The collective of melanated people are no one to impress. That's the truth. They're no one to impress. So it's not about pressing them. Mr. Go Anywhere, what's happening? Thanks for popping in on We Popping, son. Oh, snap. Jay-Z said, the House of Sufian said, Jay said that him and Diddy aren't friends. Yeah, they're not friends. They boyfriends.
Hey
They're
man,
not friends.
I
Yeah,
remember
that's
when
BS.
the security dude told us that Jay-Z like fair skinned niggas with no facial hair and
You remember
like
that?
Spanish niggas. I was like, yo,
You
what?
remember that?
Yes,
No, bro, you was like 16 years old.
it made me look at him and think about him. I'm
You
like,
remember that?
he don't
That's
have no
crazy.
facial hair.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Sure enough, bro. And I don't even share that with people. Like I don't even bother. I don't even bother sharing that with people. But yeah, that's what his security guard told us many, many, many years ago. Many years ago. And we saw the things we saw. So he's like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. I get it. I see what you're talking about now. Now that you put that information into the atmosphere, now I know what I'm looking at. Because prior to that, I was like, what am I looking at here? What am I seeing here? That's what you're seeing. You're seeing what the boy like. You know what I mean? Yo, bro, like people's
Messing
desire to
around
be
and they be like,
misinformed.
nah, them dudes is cool. I'd be like, nah, that don't make sense. Two men don't do that with each other. Like I wouldn't even do
No.
that with my cousins or my brothers or nobody. Like,
Right.
nah, that's not.
But you know, these are perspectives of melanated males from a certain sociological and economic like origins. You go to some brother raised in Calabasas, he won't have that same perspective. Like, oh, me and my best friend, you know, we play this game where we spit in each other's mouth. You see who can spit in each other's mouth from the farthest distance. Like they got different shit, like they got a different criteria for what's acceptable behavior between two males.
Yeah,
Like, and of course, with social media, we got even like a even broader variety of these kinds of ideas in terms of what's acceptable, appropriate behavior between two males, right? Two hetero males.
yeah,
Um, which is part of the process of breaking down society and creating conflict upon conflict upon conflict upon conflict to the point where everybody's standing on an opposite side of everybody else, which makes the larger amount of people easy to control by a smaller amount of people. So that's another way social media you know helps with that, helps with keeping the people at odds with one another. He said, why did Jay throw Puff under the bus like that? Because he don't want to lose it. He don't want to lose it. That's why. Anna Earbach, 007, what's happening? He don't want to lose it. Supia said, when Public Enemy said in the song "Fight the Power," talking about Elvis and John Wayne, talking about him and John Wayne. He said that's what put him on to John Wayne. Isn't that interesting? But yeah, man, it's like, I mean, these kinds of conversations, they're necessary, bro. Like, I mean, people are having them, but a lot of times when I see people having the kind of conversations that we lean towards on our thing, they not like us. You feel me? They not like us. They them type of dudes that not that it invalidates their points or perspective, but the fact of the matter is because they not like us, their ability to impact brothers like us is almost non-existent. Because our energy is like, who is dweeb ass? Like, you don't know the kind of things I deal with. A cat can't say that to me. A cat can't say to me that the things I'm saying are unrealistic or non-applicable because, you know, they come from this and they come from that. Most people do not come from where I come from. Most people don't come from actual, real criminality. They come from poor and desperate. They don't come from organized, hardcore, cold-blooded criminals. They don't come from that. They don't come from, 60s, 70s ghetto. They don't come from that. Harlem, New York, the Bronx, South Bronx in the 70s. They don't come from that. They haven't seen the things I've seen. They haven't seen the couple of thousand addicts that I've seen stick needles in their arms, that I've sat and watched stick needles in their arms with big ass holes in their arms, the size of your fist, leaking with pus. Feet so big they don't fit in any kind of a shoe, like an elephant from shooting drugs. They they don't. My point is this: I come from such hard, cold, degraded, destructive stuff, man, that if I can get my mind to a point where I can wrap it around things outside of those circumstances to the point where I understand where and how those circumstances come about, where from and how, um, then there's no way that, anybody can't get their mind around it. I don't give a fuck, how broke and struggling and poor your people were and what projects they lived in and, how destructive it was and all that, whatever. You can come up out of that. If I can come up out of what I came up out of, you can come up out of that. Period. But not if you keep swinging on the same vine like a blind monkey. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're going to get stuck right where you have been, right where your father was, right where his father was. That's what's going to happen. These kinds of conversations, especially in contrast to the dominant conversation, in contrast to the dominant energy, the music that I was talking about, they were playing Saturday night at that spot where everything was about violence, sex, misogyny, materialism, like mindless degrees of it.
Oh, I just said that to somebody today. I said women love misogyny, women love materialism and sexism and all of that shit. Like, they love it.
It's what they are attracted to, and they just, I don't think that they're sitting around going, "Oh, look at this misogynist, materialistic, sexist dude right here, man. I want this guy." That's what they're doing. What they are doing is, "Oh, look what he driving. Oh, look what he wearing. Oh, he got on the new. Oh, these. Oh, I'm gonna see if I can get me some of that, whatever. All you need is a little bit of where that." But they're not thinking that by saying what you're saying, by having that mindset, what you're saying is, I love me a misogynistic, materialistic, superficial, untruthful, sneaking, unreliable, lying. I love it. That's not what they think they're saying, but that is what they're saying. And the more they say that, the more guys hear it, especially these impressionable young dudes who don't have an actual real man around with morals and ethics to give them an example of how they should be. And they're seeing all this misogynistic, sexist, materialistic, mindless, drug-induced, ego-driven BS being elevated and flaunted, and the women who are being told are the most desirable and attractive women are drawn towards that. It's like, well, it makes sense that I would be aspiring to that. It makes sense I would be aspiring to having this attitude that, all women are good for is my pleasure and, my props, and not recognizing that that's the definition of misogyny. They don't know the word. They just know they don't know the words. They know the song though. You know what I mean? Like, they know the beat, they know the dance to go with it and all that. They just don't know what it means, short of it's going to get me accepted. It's going to get me what I want. If I don't know how long I've been hearing girls love a dude that will say to her, and I did witness this as a kid, in my teens, being in a spot, and one dude says, "Oh, shit, excuse me, young lady, how you doing? Yeah, I'll talk to you for a second. What's your name? I just want to talk to you for a second, get to know you. What's happening? How you been?" And then his man go, "Man, bitch, man, you talking to no bitch like me? Hey, bitch, you hear my man talking to you, bitch? What the fuck is wrong with you? Get the fuck over here." They be like, "Why are you talking to me like that, all crazy?" I've seen that.
Yes.
I've seen that. Now, if I was impressionable, if I were weak of character, I might have looked at that and said, well, shit, that's pretty definitive. They like misogynist, sexist, disrespectful dudes. They think that's attractive. I want to be attractive. Let me act like that. But because I had men to exemplify what a real man does, and women who demonstrated that only a real woman is worthy of the kind of man that's being displayed for me, and that the other kind of guy is not acceptable to no real woman. If I didn't have those things demonstrated for me, then I would have automatically assumed that it's okay to, or it makes sense to be that way. Because they're getting what I want. They're getting the attention. They're getting the response. I guess I should be like those guys. That's not what was displayed for me. I saw it, and I saw it, in my peers, but I looked at it like, y'all just don't know no better. And if you do get that female acting like that, the guy who said, excuse me, young lady, and, got no response, watching the guy who said, come here, bitch, getting a response, he should be like, whew, I dodged a bullet. I dodged a bullet. That's who she is. If you hadn't done what you did, she might have responded to me, and she's still the same person. I just wouldn't know until I'm 6 months in.
They scales is off when society or social media reinforces that she is valuable. You just dumb.
All right. Yeah. Well,
You
again.
broke. That's why you ain't get it. You broke.
Oh, okay. That's what this whole thing is about. It's about perpetuating those counterintuitive ideas, those ideas that basically up, down is the real up. Down is the real up. Off is the real on. You don't want to get on, you want to get off. You don't want to get up, you want to get down. That this is about perpetuating these incognizant, these non-thinking, backward ideas.
All the rappers saying, I'm not even a rapper.
Right. Meanwhile, 50 hours a week in the booth, recording songs. By definition, my guy, you are a rapper. Like what? Why are you not a rapper? Because you've assimilated the attitude, style of dress, and behavior of a street guy. So you think so if I go put on a Yankees uniform, I'm a Major League Baseball player?
Yes.
Oh, shit. Yo, word. Well, damn. Wow.
You manifested it.
Oh, it's done. It's done. It's done, son. It's finished. It's finished. All that those of us who have a thinking brain in our head can do is become proficient at ducking these suckers. I don't care how many of them buy into these backward ass ideas. I don't care how many of them do it. We ain't going that route. I'm not, you not, your sons aren't, their sons won't. I can guarantee you, my guy, it ain't going to end well, bro. Guarantee it. Not only does my logic tell me this, my experience tells me this. None of this is new. This is all the same behavior that human beings engage in. Nothing is new. It's just repeating itself, and largely because of what I was saying earlier about that disconnect between the generations. If the generations before weren't able to effectively convey the wisdom and knowledge of the experiences they had to the next generation, then that next generation is doomed to repeat the same mistakes because they don't know no better. They think they're making something up. They thinking they're doing something never been done before. It's because they didn't listen to let somebody tell them, oh, yeah, did that. this is what happens. But you didn't do it like this. Actually, yeah, I did. I did. I was on this planet 30 years before you got here. I covered a lot of bases. And believe it or not, you ain't made up nothing. Just because you don't know about it having happened before or this history before doesn't mean you made it up. That's a false positive right there. But a lot of them, their minds work like that, though. Their minds work that way. Like they really feel like this is about that belief thing. They really feel like, one, because I think a thought, it is valid, for one, which is why I encourage the critical thinking, to think about what you're thinking about, not just think something and be like, oh, yeah, that's it. That's it. That's what it is. And being very careful as to not come into contact with anybody or anything that might make you have to rethink that, make you have to reconsider that that might not be what it is. No, son, don't want you. No, that's what it is, and move on that, and then have what happens when people move that way, and then turn around and be like, I'm a victim. Why this happened to me? And it's somebody else's fault. You know, that mentality is probably one of the most dominant mentalities that I observe in our collective, bro. Nobody is responsible for nothing that happens to them. And at the same time, nobody is interested in exposing themselves either through conversations or, you know, reading something, watching something, listening to something, to get some insight into whatever it is they're dealing with, what may be the history of that thing, what may have transpired before them in that thing, before they got to this point in their lives where they're considering, you know, jumping out the street or responding retaliatory, you know, in some violent way, you know, to some perceived offense, you know, to not prevail upon all the untold number of individuals who've been through these same things, and just to go, you know what, it is whatever I think it is, and whatever has happened historically with this doesn't really matter. It's what I think it is. That, to me, seems to be the most prominent kind of idea, thinking, you know, as it relates to just dealing with life, dealing with the challenges of life from day to day. You know, there's apparently a bunch of people who don't think there's anywhere that they can go, or anybody they can speak to, or anything they can look at or watch or listen to that can, or read or tell them, you know, what has taken place before under the very same circumstances they're dealing with at that moment, and what was done in response to that, and the many different ways that those responses impacted those people. And, you know, here's your takeaway, or determine your own takeaway after exposing yourself to this information. But, you know, it's here, nigga. Ain't nothing new. You know, it's like when Meech said to me that time, "Oh, Kvario, you ain't never seen nobody do it like this before. Ain't nobody ever did it like this before." There's a lot of people out there who think that. You know why? Because they didn't live the life I lived. They didn't come from where I come from. You got a lot of cats that before Don Diva, they didn't know shit about streets. Before YouTube, they didn't know shit about streets. Nothing. Before rap records that talked about the streets, they didn't know shit about streets. And that's the majority of people. Even the ones from the hood. Like, I can't say that enough. Just because you're poor and from the hood, don't make you a street person. Not even almost. It just makes you victims of unfortunate circumstances. That's what it does. But it doesn't make you a street nigga or street nigga material. It don't. And if you don't believe me, why don't you just really do some research and see where the general population that's in the penitentiary, where they come from. The majority of the dudes, the majority of the people in prison are melanated, first and foremost. Secondly, the majority of them that are in there, they're in there for drugs and violence. They came from the hood. They're poor. But they're the larger majority in the place where they send people when they fail at doing criminal things. So what does that just at a glance tell you? That being from the hood is not enough for you to be ready for the streets. But that's not what cats from the hood are getting, because you're living in the hood. You know, every other dude you know is in and out of prison or in prison and ain't come home yet or dead. So you're seeing it yourself. Like, are you unable to do the math of logic? Coming up out the hood is not a guarantee of any kind that you're going to succeed in the street life. In fact, there's a pretty good amount of evidence to the contrary. That is all you got going on is that you're poor and desperate and from a disenfranchised, underserved community.
Queens, nigga.
Yeah.
You already know what it is. I was just talking. I'm trying to make that a joke. How niggas just say that. Yo, you know what it is. You know what it is with us.
Oh, they got a bunch of that. Oh, they got
Yo, what is that?
a bunch of that. They got a bunch of that. That's what's taking the place of thinking in any kind of way critically. These
know how we rock it.
These mindless, those type of mindless generalisms that are supposed to wash over any kind of intricate thought about anything. So wait a minute, y'all gonna roll up on this spot and just hop out with your joints and just pull your guns out and just rob everybody, whatever. Y'all ain't like, whose spot is it?
Y'all hop
I
back.
don't know.
You hop back in your sister's car that she drive and drop her kids off.
Right. I'm saying, man, you know what it is. You know what I'm saying? We got these. Yeah, we got, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, these are the only ones they made. They don't got no more of these. We the only ones with these.
Police,
you know,
behind them. Whoop, whoop. Everybody, put your hands up. Everybody, oh shit, they got us.
Right.
They got us. Drop every. Don't use none of the guns we got. We law-abiding citizens right now. Everybody, put their hands up, lay down.
Because now we're going to do the other cool part. Other cool part is when we go in here and we don't say nothing. We stand up, you know what I'm saying? And then when we get bailed out, we be talking about how, yeah, they, you know what I'm saying? They try to get me to tell whatever. I was like, man, fuck that, nigga. Take me to my cell. I love that one. I just told him, take me to my cell. I've been hearing that for 45 years. I just told him, take me to my cell. Yeah, you did. Sure you did. Everybody told him to just take them to their cell. Nobody said nothing. Sure is a lot of people in prison that had been told on. Somebody didn't say, take me to my cell. Somebody said, take me to McDonald's. Somebody said, take me to Arby's. Like, somebody saying something. Nigga, so, but the generalisms, those little things right there, those, you know how we do, you know what it is, you know what I'm saying? You know how I get down, you know how we get down. Like, it's like, bro, what
those terms gonna
really
give you 1,000 years. They're gonna be like, nah, because the whole block got shot up and we know how you get down. So here.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I think these conversations are necessary, son. You know, and they land where they land, bro. You know, those who they resonate with, cool. Those who they don't, you know, you got what you got coming. Good luck to you. We have to cut us off. We made it to an hour. Love you.
Love you too.
All right. Talk to you Thursday.
All right. Bet.